Main Street Subcommittee to deal with parking and other issues that have come up in the town hall. We're going to form excuse me for the verbiage here, but a subcommittee charter to delegate individuals from the community, public works, police, fire, and all different organizations that can all come together and we'll have representation from all those groups. We're working that out soon, so we hope to have some information coming out later this week.
Everybody be careful to speak closer to your mic so that the public can hear you. It's very hard to hear.
Any other communications? All right, seeing none, scheduling items. February 4th, 2025 is the next scheduled regular council meeting in the Public Safety Building at 6:30 p.m. February 18th follows that meeting, and that is the second scheduled regular council meeting at the Public Safety Building, again at 6:30 p.m. So moving on to the approval of minutes, we have January 7th, 2025 council reorganization and regular meeting minutes, and January 7th, 2025 executive session minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. So, we have been informed of a rising level of concern, which may be why so many people are here this evening, regarding the potential for cannabis farming here in Medford. And so prior to our time of public comment, we felt it would be informative to discuss this as a council. So we would like to add that topic for discussion tonight. Would anyone like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a discussion about cannabis farming tonight?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries. Could you explain our current ordinance for cannabis?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as I indicated, I think at the last meeting, when the Cannabis Regulatory Act was enacted, after voter approval by the voters in the state, the act provided for an option to municipalities, all municipalities in the state, to either allow certain or all of the licenses that the statute allowed a local government to have, or to issue, or to opt out of the cannabis uses and not permit them in the municipality. There was a short period of time when the township had to make that decision. The township council at the time decided not to allow cannabis uses in the municipality. The township adopted the required ordinance filed with the state, and that is the current state of the cannabis regulation in town. The cannabis licenses include retail licenses for the retail sale of cannabis. They also include manufacture and cultivation. At the time, the township council felt there were too many unanswered issues concerning the cannabis uses. In particular, there were concerns about the environmental aspects of cultivation. There actually, the cannabis cultivation is not a farm. It's within buildings. It's got electric needs, water needs, that kind of thing. So the decision at the time was to not allow any of these uses in the municipality. And that is the current state of the ordinance today.
Thank you. Okay, so for us as council, we have the opportunity to discuss this publicly. I was one of there are three of us, Ms. Simons, myself, and Councilman Watson, who is here this evening, who were present on council when we voted for this. The vote was 5-0. Councilwoman Lauren Cochin, Councilman Frank Chekai were the other two.
That's correct.
That voted for
It was
this.
unanimous decision.
Yes. And so just moving forward, I just want to establish my continuing position that this is not something that we would be interested, that I would be interested in moving forward with here in Medford for a variety of reasons, environmental and also warehouse issues. So that's my position. If anyone wants to share.
I will speak if that's okay, Earth. All right. I'm not in favor of changing the ordinance. I want to keep it in place as it is. This is a residential zone. It is not a commercial zone or a farm zone. Many developments are adjacent to this particular property that we've been talking about. The effects of permitting this would cause harm to our residents in many ways. odors, traffic of trucks, security, I could go on and on with the list. This location is also located within a radius of a daycare center, a school, and many of the lakes. I'm a local real estate agent. When I'm selling a property, I always suggest to my client to do your due diligence for anything that could affect the property. And it could be hazardous waste, it could be a commercial building. It's always best to investigate that. And I just feel that something like this in the town would definitely create a problem with resale values. This property in question is next to Sherwood Forest, Oakwood, Birchwood, Wood Lake, and my particular development of Cranberry Lakes. We also have a tree ordinance and pine lane regulations, and that is not, the location is not suitable, and I am against any changing of that ordinance at all. Thank you.
My sense is that this law is in its infancy. A growth facility is not a farm, it is a warehouse, as Mr. Prime said. It would need to have security, I believe, and things like that. We've done a decent job to try to keep our town and its character. If we allow this, to put a warehouse, then when would it stop? For us as council, we have to look at the broader picture and what this entails. There's so many more implications and concerns that I certainly have. Nowhere around us do they even allow it in residential zones. This has only been, I think, around for 3 years or so, right? Is that right, Tim?
Yeah.
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 So I want to keep our farmlands as farmlands, and that's my position.
And I would second all the opinions of council. It's a use that we don't currently have approved, and I think there's just many other uses that we don't have approved that we wouldn't consider also. I don't necessarily have anything against the product or its medicinal use. I just don't feel as though it fits within the character of Medford. The same way an Amazon warehouse wouldn't fit into our town or a large department store, and that was being discussed along Route 70. That's just not the town that we bought into. I don't agree with changing the ordinance.
Thank you.
Mayor, just so we're clear, this was precipitated by a request relative to a specific piece of property. However, the council's decision is not based on a specific parcel, it's based on an overall evaluation of the campus uses and their suitability for the township.
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you. So we'll now open it up to, for public comment for a regular meeting, and we would ask that general decorum is exhibited, and so be kind to each other and to your neighbors. When we think about this, many veterans lost their lives to ensure that we have free speech, and honoring each other is a way to honor them. And please note that we also do have on record Ordinance 3/2020, Ordinance 3/2020, which calls for all participants to engage in proper conduct and to avoid disturbing the peace of the meeting. And so this portion of the meeting is an opportunity for you to come to comment publicly. This is not a time of public debate. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and you'll be called to the microphone, and please clearly state your name and address for the record. Again, any comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Mr. Horner, will you please provide just a timer for that and perhaps give us a 30-second warning as we move about to, is there anyone who would like to speak? Please.
I'm not gonna talk about that subject. Listen, I'm here for one reason.
I'm sorry, your name and address?
I'm sorry, my name is Mike Canarella, 49 Georgia Trail. I taught at Shawnee High School for many years, and I've been a resident in Medford since '76. So my father bought a warehouse right near Merritt's gas station in 1970. So I go way back. Listen, I'm here for one reason. Everyone knows I'm a Democrat, and I'm so far to the left that every time I turn my car, I cringe when I put the right turn signal on. There's a man who sat there. He sat there before, and I'm not going to get involved in your internal politics. That's not me. I look at some of the things that he and I, with the help of some of the people in this room, have accomplished. We have a memorial for Dr. Still. We have memorials for men who fought in every war in the 20th century. And with the help of these gentlemen in this room, we now have a memorial for all first responders. I want to clear the air, even though he is on the opposite side of the political aisle that I am, that we both had the betterment of Medford in our eyes. And we were able to overcome these political differences to move forward. I urge and hope that I can have continued opportunity to do so with this council, but I also urge you to respect and admire everything that we were able to accomplish. Thank you. I'm not staying for the rest.
Good evening. My name is Louis Soper. I'm a Mount Holly resident and County of Burlington of New Jersey. First, I'd like to say hi to my friends I've known for several years. Second is, I want to give thanks to Jacqueline Froston of Medford, Nancy Flynn Reagan from Medford. I would like to give thanks, I can say it's an Indian name, Jean Rye. She's the head leader to the Democrat Medford page, the administration. My name is Louis. I just came here to see my friends. I see one. I can imagine. I'm a YouTube journalist. My job is to learn, to record every township meeting from Mount Holly, Leamington, sometimes Medford. That 4 years ago I did that. That's completely changed from 4 years ago. I used to come with county freeholders. You used to come here once in a blue moon. Just curious about 3 questions. First question is, do you know the status or the future of the Burger King got closed down in Medford? Do you know the status of that property or to? That's how my first question is. I know Burger King's closed in Medford.
Do you know the status of the Burger King building?
No, what's the future for that property?
We
No, I
don't
know.
at this point.
It's privately owned, it's a
Oh, okay.
franchise, so we don't know, until somebody tries to reactivate it or use it, we won't know about it.
How far is Freedom Park from here?
Across the street.
Right across the street.
Oh, across the street. Oh, okay. I'm from Mahalia, man.
Okay.
And like I said, I love coming here. Just I learn. I used to be a candidate for a county freeholder. I used to be a candidate for Mahalia. I lost. That's how I learned. You try. And I was, taking me as a guest. And one last comment: do you have the same program as Mount Holly, like the UEZ in Medford?
No, we're not an urban enterprise zone.
It's a good program. You should, the Medford should have one, a UEZ program. That would help the town itself.
Well, Medford wouldn't qualify for that,
Why?
because there's regulations about what you can do to have a reduced sales tax in those areas.
You should, try to get one. I mean, it did save a lot of money for the township. It does. I'm a living proof. And thank you for having me as a guest.
All right,
Thank you
Thank
for
very much.
coming.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Jensen. I live at 49 North Main Street. I live next to a brewery for the last 2.5 years. The reason for my coming here is, again, to plead for the noise ordinance to be lowered. Right now, the noise ordinance is at 65 decibels. I live 24 feet and 6 inches exactly from a brewery. So what's happening is that when they play music, the music is in our home, all in our home, in our bathroom, in our bedroom, you name it, living room. it's just fully in our home, and I'm pleading to see if we can get the noise ordinance lowered, at least for residentials that live so close to a brewery or establishment that has live music or music at all. We have tried numerous times to have the owner, to help and see what he can do. He did put some sound, a little bit of some sound, I guess like crates he put, says on the ceiling to see if it would reflect the sound and not come so much into our home. But unfortunately, with the structure of the building that's very old, it still comes into our house. So basically, like I'm saying, is that we're just hoping maybe we can get the noise ordinance to be lowered, especially for residential that lives for X amount of feet from an establishment like this. The owner keeps telling me that he's in his right, which he is. 65 decibels is right, and it is his right. But for people who do live there as residential, it's unfortunate, but it's very hard to live your life when you have music constantly coming to your home, especially at over hours, up to 10 o'clock at night, and then it goes down to a different noise ordinance, but it's still very loud. I myself, I like to go home to a quiet home, and unfortunately, when breweries came into the town, especially living next to residential, they didn't consider the people that live there, and that's how I feel. We also have funeral homes that are near these establishments. We also have a new brewery that's coming, that's across the street from a funeral home next to a dental resident that lives up there. So it's not just myself that's gonna be affected by these breweries and the noise ordinance. So I'm hoping that we can be heard as residential, and somebody please help us get this noise ordinance lower down, so we can live in our homes peacefully. I guess that's it. Good night, thank you.
Philip Justice, 100 Jackson Road. I have a prepared speech, but I feel like it's appropriate to first address the council and some of the concerns of the council. I'd like to start by stating that many of the objections that were represented were based specifically on and around zoning. What I would say is that zoning is different than an ordinance. This ordinance is holistic to the Township of Medford and should not be discussed at an individual zoning level. That would be inappropriate at this time. We need to decide holistically if this is good for us and not base our decisions specifically on the zoning of my property. With that being said, it was also called into question that cannabis is not a farming activity. There are committees and agricultural committees specific to New Jersey that classifies cannabis as an agricultural activity. Under this township's development regulation DR 307, that is the right to farm permitted use in all zones. That covers my ability to produce any agricultural product or build any warehouse. I don't know if the township knew that, but whether I want to grow, now cannabis is a particular one that because you have an ordinance you can block me. But if I wanted to grow cucumbers, potatoes, or anything else, under that ordinance, I could make an argument to cut down every tree and plant corn on all 30 of my acres. Do I plan to do that? Absolutely not. But all I'm saying is that it is an agricultural product, it is already a permitted use, and it should be holistically looked at and not just based on my property. There's a lot of people in this township that would like to operate businesses and can help people. And with that, I'd like to move to my prepared speech. Last time I spoke before this council, I spoke generally regarding commercial cannabis as a whole, holistically, but this evening specifically I want to touch on that of cultivation. And to illustrate my point this evening, I'd like to start with a bit of a rhetorical question for everyone. When was the last time that someone approached this council and said, I want to give you $500,000 to $1 million in tax revenue every year in perpetuity? The answer is probably never. And this evening, what I would like to present is real data by one of our New Jersey townships that directly speaks to those numbers. So let's move on. In Winslow Township has a single business, a single cultivator that operates a 123,000 square foot cannabis facility. This facility is 27,000 square feet less than the New Jersey state maximum, which is 150,000 square feet. Keep that in mind, it's a very important point moving forward. In 2023 alone, and based on the data sheets that I presented in front of you, that data in 2023 came in, and this is taxable revenue that Winslow Township collected at $500,000. One single business, one single license from that was licensed in New Jersey, produced $500,000 for that municipality. In 2024, they upped their game. They produced revenue, not revenue, excuse me, they produced tax revenue for Winslow Township that is $868,000. Now, think of that additional 27,000 square feet that they could add to their facility. With that, they could, in 2025, very likely produce revenues for their township in excess of $1 million. And with that extra 27,000 square feet, could be producing $1.5 million every year in tax revenue for their municipality. This represents Medford Townships and any other township who wants to get behind cultivation. Their number 2 way to collect revenue, only beat by the property taxes that we collect from our residents. Let's compare that data to that of Medford's 2024 budget. Medford's total 2024 budget came in at $26 million. $1.5 million is 5.5% of the total municipal budget from one cultivator. Let's move on. $15 million represents the total property taxes collected from every single resident in Medford Township. At $1.5 million, that would be 10% of the revenue of this township that we collected from property taxes, 10% from one business operator. Those are real numbers, guys. Based on these numbers, as I stated, this represents Medford's number 1 way to collect revenue that does not take it directly out of our residents' pockets. Now, clearly, this is a very charged issue. Members of this council, such as Ms. Simmons, made some comments that were very strong. I know there are also some people in this room that feel very strongly about this as well. What I would suggest is that we actually take the time to dive into the data like what I just represented to you. This is just one piece. There are cultivation, there are retail licenses, there are wholesale licenses, distribution, delivery, testing facilities, all kinds of stuff, right?
Mr. Justice, you're about 30 seconds from your time being up.
Thank you very much. And I just think this deserves real consideration above and beyond just a quick dismissal. And what I would say to the council is perhaps we move these discussions out of this meeting so I don't have to monopolize your time, and maybe we could create a board, commission, committee, task force, and use that capability to actually review this data. And what I would ask of each and every township council member, and hopefully I could get a commitment, I'd like someone to speak up and commit, is to actually sit down with me for a one-on-one conversation, or maybe we can make it an executive review, and actually review the data. Not just speak offhand, not speak on emotion. Can this actually be a net positive to this township? Yes or no? Thank you very much.
Zach Wilson, 51 North Main Street. First of all, it's great to see the new makeup and to address you all kind of differently than has been used to. I think that it's a testament to the new members having come in and started to engage more with the public, and that's something that I know Jen and neighbors like us have been asking for over 2 years now. It's nice to see it finally happening. I appreciate the ongoing engagement. I appreciate you hearing our concerns at the town hall about the parking and other issues that are happening. Jen again alluded to the noise. These are issues that are going to be facing all of the residents in and around the new brewery. I don't think that everybody that lives around Still Park and in the upstairs apartments of Main Street or in that area are quite ready for how loud 65 decibels can be at that time of night, at 9 o'clock at night when your kids are going to bed, when you're trying to settle things down, when your reactive dogs are barking all the time because the walls are shaking with the noise. So I think that it's something you should absolutely change. It would be nice if maybe you came out to one of the events that happen at the brewery so you can actually hear what that sounds like. It happens Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, so love to see it around town to actually experience that. I'm very excited about the parking subcommittee, looking forward, or the village subcommittee, looking forward to seeing what we're going to be doing about that. I'd love to, potentially be part of that from a citizen standpoint if you're looking for volunteers. I think that we really need to talk about not just the parking, but also just the general management of the downtown on those busy nights, which again are starting to be every Thursday, every Friday night, every Saturday, every Sunday, because of how busy it gets in and around the breweries, which is great. I love it. But let's manage it, right? Let's get perhaps an officer that is on patrol to prevent people from urinating in our backyards when they're drunk, to stop the people that are stumbling and calling out through the parking lots man, it's a good thing I'm not taking a breathalyzer. I mean, these are things that we as residents hear, and it's really concerning, especially when you talk about the expansion of this new brewery and just the sheer size of how many people can go there and enjoy themselves on Main Street. Again, I want that to happen. I want us to be responsible as a town to ensure the safety and the well-being of our citizens that live there, that visit there, and the visitors from other towns that come in. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you're doing there. Also, just wanted to touch on the cannabis cultivation. I do think that as a point of engagement, and I know that, especially you too, Eric, I've had good conversations with you, that you should hear from people and that you're willing to. And I would like you to properly engage people without just sitting up there and saying, I don't want to revisit this. I think that you should listen to people. I especially think that you should look at how the town voted. 67.5% of this town voted to pass that state law. That means nearly 7 in 10 people wanted that to be legal in New Jersey. And presumably a decent portion of them wanted us as a town to get the benefits of that new industry. And we are letting all of that money slip out to our neighboring towns. Great for them, but as you just heard some of the amounts that we're passing up, year over year over year, failure to look at that, failure to expand and make a dispassionate review of this industry is letting those tax dollars slip out the door, year over year over year over year. 7 in 10 people. Are you willing to look at 10 people today and tell 7 of them, don't care, we're not even gonna look at it? I know that that's your will, we're not even gonna take it up as an issue. I don't think you wanna do that, or at least most of you don't wanna do that. So I would ask you to reconsider your kind of staunch position on that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joshua Gatesman, 3 South Lakeside Drive West. Good evening, thank you for having me. I'm Josh Gatesman, I'm a senior at St. Augustine Prep, an Eagle Scout from Medford Lakes Troop 48, a member of our local Lions Heart Teen Volunteer Organization, honor student, and founder of a local charity. While I'm not engaged in these extracurriculars, you may see me hanging out at Birchwood Lake, swimming at Deerbrook, or riding my bike around Medford. The Medford community has provided me with such an amazing atmosphere to have an incredible childhood and develop into the driven young man I am today. It would be a shame for a family-oriented, strong value community like Medford to allow a commercial cannabis farm to infiltrate our town. There are so many practical issues with construction and operation of this farm, like the runoff into our lakes and groundwater, and the environmental impact of clearing 31 acres of trees on historic cranberry bogs. But most importantly, it's the kind of businesses we want to attract into our town and the safety and values we instill in our schools, public spaces, and homes that make not passing a resolution to Chapter 54 a crucial step towards preserving a safe and uplifting community. As a founder of a charity which has donated over $3,800 to youth athletics, I understand how important outdoor recreation is to childhood development. In fact, as a kid in middle and elementary school, I was blessed that the owner of this 31-acre property allowed me and my friends to bike and hike on the same trails this farm would replace. In addition to that, I love swimming in our local lakes, such as Birchwood and Oakwood. The outdoor natural playground found on this 31-acre woods is an environment where creativity, exploration, and love of nature develops in our town's youth. Allowing commercial pot farming in Medford would give this couple the easy opportunity to utilize the Right to Farm Act and bulldoze this incredible forest to make way for rows of cannabis greenhouses. I am incredibly upset that the young kids in my neighborhood would be deprived of the adventurous woods and would be exposed to the environment of a commercial pot farm. In addition, the harmful effects of runoff waste from agriculture, especially that of cannabis, would contaminate our lakes, which are less than a football field away from the growing site. The Medford Township's public schools have done an excellent job at teaching me the dangers of drug abuse. At Allen Elementary School, just down the road, I heard Ms. Palmer speak of the dangers of drug use, and now as a high school student, I've seen firsthand what exposure to drugs can do to talented, driven young people. I've seen incredibly smart and driven friends fall victim to marijuana and lose their drive and ambitions in life. To put a business that produces marijuana, especially within a residential neighborhood, would be giving drugs a warm welcome into our town and opening our doors to drug abuse in Medford G. In conclusion, I ask the board tonight to keep Chapter 54 as is, because if amended and combined with the Right to Farm Act, it would allow for the construction of this commercial cannabis farm within a residential neighborhood. It is seriously important to me and numerous other families that the integrity of Medford that I grew up with remains consistent, so we can attract value-driven families to our community who feel safe to raise their children in such a great town. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda O'Hara. I own the property at 98 Jackson Road, so it's nice to meet my neighbor for the first time tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Although I appreciate the municipal purposes of marijuana, I have my dad's a Vietnam vet who has PTSD and uses pot regularly. I understand the benefits. I personally do not want a pot growing facility in my backyard. I currently lease that. Some board members mentioned, realty. I have a tenant in that home right now, and the reason I have a tenant in that home is because we tried to build onto our house. We bought the house in 2001, so we owned the home for 24 years. We tried to put an addition on the home. We are hooked up to public sewer, but same as you, we are well water. So we tried to get approval from the DEP to put a well further back on our property so we could add a 1,600 square foot addition to that little beige rancher that my husband built the garage 3 times bigger than my house, but couldn't move the well. You know my garage? He can see this, great job, babe. But we had to move. We had to leave that garage that he built, that he loved so much, because the DEP wouldn't let us put another well on our back property. So we moved to Tabernacle, we leased that property out. The problem was, it was gonna cost us $30,000, $20,000 to $30,000 to turn the water on in our house, because we were being forced to connect to public water across the street. So I don't know how you would plan on watering your plants, but just so you know, you are within that 200 feet too. So, that being said, we moved, we leased it out. I'm gonna have one hell of a time getting people to rent my property. Now, we maintain the property because when my kids get older, this is a 1,000 square foot rancher that me and my husband plan to come back to and retire. I too, just like Josh, great job, honestly. Like Josh, my kids, the Gatesman's kids, Mr. and Miss Smith's son Nathan, we went ice skating on that pond. They run through the woods. They go zip lining at Mrs. Gatesman's house. These are families. They're families that want kids. Eventually, I'll give this house to my kids. I love Medford. I want to come back to Medford. That's why I maintain the house. I don't want to sit on my back deck and smell marijuana. I don't want truck. And to the gentleman that was up earlier about the noise, I am so sorry about those breweries and that noise. That really breaks my heart. But imagine sitting there and having truckloads of marijuana come up and down your house. He literally surrounds me. He owns 32 acres. I own an acre. And Mr. and Mrs. Gatesman have my other side. I would be dealing with that same noise issue, unfortunately. I think we need to leave Medford the way it is. Sometimes it's not about data and figures and money. Sometimes it's about community.
Anyone else? All right, I see you in the back.
Hi, my name is Victoria Hummel. I'm at 4 Pinham Trail, Medford, in Oakwood Lake. I'm actually changing, I'm still talking about the canvas, changing my tactic. Because I recall him specifically saying it was about money and revenue and improving the town. So one of my fun little facts was that home prices within 0.36 mile radius of growing plants, that mine, or dispensaries typically fall on average 3 to 4%. The only time home values increase is in cities with typically below the median property values compared to surrounding towns. Now, I love, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, that mentioned that you want the facility, but you brought up Winslow Township.
Okay, Windsor Township's median sale home price for the 2024 calendar year was $340,000. Medford is up there at $575,333. So I would definitely go by these stats, okay, and the realtor aspect, that we are definitely not at the below a median home value of our town, which means our property values will drop. Now, I was curious about this earlier, so did call a realtor. Very big, I live in Medford. If a growing facility would appear near my home, and I was cut off by the first one of, unless you're gonna severely drop your prices, it's not worth my time. The second one said you'd really have to drop your prices because most families, when moving into a town, especially a suburban town like Medford with good school districts, are moving into this town to get away from things like extracurricular marijuana use. Similar to why my husband and I, who had a house in Maple Shade, decided to move back to our hometown to the Medford Marlton area to get away from that use. So I think that's it.
Anyone else?
My name is Michael Bryan. I'm at 10 Woodlake Court, just around the corner from this proposed facility. We moved into Medford in 1966, got married in '86 and moved out. Spent 38 years in Haddonfield and just moved back into Medford, looking forward to retirement about a year ago. I spent a lot of time traveling around the state. I do tax work for a living. I think we've all seen the communities along 295 and the Turnpike where the warehouse farms have grown up, and I really would not want to see 125 or 150,000 square foot facility within a couple hundred yards of where I live. I think we all recognize it's a lot, this is about a lot more than just money. Using some rough math, I think there's roughly 25,000 residents, understanding some of those are toddlers and infants. But if you do the math against $68,000, that's roughly $34.50 per resident. So this is not a huge amount of revenue in perpetuity, who knows? But I think this is about a lot more than just cash. It's a lifestyle in town, and the last thing we need to do is build something within the borough, especially this close to the center of a residential area that is, potential risk to environmental issues, a strain on other resources. Security is, I would think, a pretty major concern, because I'd rather not have folks in the neighborhood carry firearms in securing a facility like this. So I'm glad that there's not a lot of support or no support. I don't know about the fifth member who's not here this evening, but I'm glad to hear there's not a lot of support here for changing the ordinance, understanding the differences between zoning and this ordinance. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just point out for the record, I spoke with Councilman Watson today, and he asked me to share that he's 100% against all cannabis in the town of Medford. Any other public comment?
Hello, John Buster, 35 through John Drive in the short neighborhood. Yes, I agree with the young lady who's in the real estate business. I'm concerned about my property value decreasing substantially. Gentleman mentioned a pot farm would deliver increased revenue. I think it will actually deliver decreased revenue, because you're going to have hundreds of families asking for property tax rebates. Secondly, the gentleman wants a private session with you. This matter should be discussed in the public and be transparent. Gentleman over here mentioned that 54% of the state voted to legalize marijuana. I doubt that is with respect to whether they want a cannabis facility in the neighborhood. I would think if you look at, if you ask that of the voters in Medford, if they wanted a cannabis facility in our neighborhood, I can guarantee it's way below 50%. I'm not familiar with this process. I just heard about this the other day. I would ask, how do we put a stake in this? What is the process? There was never an application.
The Township Council has already indicated, I've indicated that we have an ordinance that does not allow any cannabis uses in the town. The request was to change that. The council expressed their unanimous statement tonight that they're not gonna change the ordinance at this time, so there's nothing to be done.
So it's done tonight.
Brian Carnes, 65 Medford Mahali Road. I don't really have much to say about the pot thing, other than I enjoy it. And, I don't know where you've been, but we get trucks on a farm, and we got fined. It's great that the communities get together and talking about it at least. But I came up here for a few different reasons. One, I want to apologize about the last meeting. Things were hot. I think we can all agree. Me and the Wolves shouldn't be in the same room together. Other than that, where is, you said you spoke to Mr. Watson today. Is there a reason why he's not here tonight?
He's in Denver on business.
Gotcha. All right. Guess that's really it. I just want to come up here and apologize. There is one other thing. Mr. Klein, maybe you can weigh in on this, okay? We would love to be able to present my mother, our mother, Carolyn, some kind of letter from the township saying, look, we got a few things wrong. An apology is what I'm getting at. Not even to us. It would be to her on behalf of Medford Township. I think that's something the community would like to see too. And there's no liability. If there's some kind of waiver or we're worried about that, I think we're way past that anyway. So it would mean a lot to us. We'd be able to move on in a healthier way. It's created a lot of problems over there the last 9 years with everything that's going on. So it would bring closure to this. We can move on. We can give my mom something and get on with it. Get all along again. Mr. Prime, is that something that could be done?
Brian, I'm not gonna comment on that.
Oh, thanks. Fair enough. If council, will you look into it and let us know? All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
And Mr. Carnes, thank you for the apology. Anyone from the public?
Hi, my name is Judd Parker. I'm from 8 Yorkshire Drive in Sherwood Forest. Coming into this a little bit off the cuff, I was driving back from an errand with my wife, and she's like, do we need to say something about this? So I want to give you a little background on me real quick. I'm a 6th generation farmer. My family's been farming continuously since the 1840s. I know agriculture. What's being proposed with a cannabis farm, and I don't smoke cannabis, I don't care. I'm very pro-liberty. You should have autonomy as a person to do what you please. The problem I have with this is I don't quite understand why this location makes sense. There's way too many houses, and I just don't get it as a farmer why you would want this property to be where you do this. Now, I come from cranberry farming. I grow crops in wetlands. I am familiar with the area around Sherwood Forest. It's old blueberry fields and cranberry bogs. would urge the gentleman that's trying to take this endeavor to really think hard about it. Because aside from what happens here, that's wetlands. Because after here, you've got to go see people at Pinelands. And if you think this is hard,
Amen, brother.
you have no clue what can of worms you're opening. I have 54 acres of cranberry bogs that were active cranberry bogs up until about 1999 when I let them go fallow for a few years because the market was bad. I went back to renovate them and I got cease and desist from the DEP. The EPA was involved. That was 20 years and $2 million ago. And I have seen zero for it. I don't think this town has the culture for it. The other thing I just want to make known, when I let a cranberry bog go, it turns into something pretty. It turns back in the swamp because really I'm working with land. It's a native crop. It's supposed to be here. Same for the blueberry field. You can drive all over Medford, barely tell that half the woods was blueberry fields because pine trees grow up and it looks like, regular pine barren. When you start putting brick and mortar and glass in, that doesn't go back like that. And the other part about agriculture is one of the worst things for farmers is investors. Because people come in and they think it's lucrative. And maybe some people are, but they probably have a lot of big corporate backing. But usually the pattern is about 3 to 5 years down the road, those investors that gave you that money want to start seeing something back. And I'm going to plead ignorant. I don't know a lot about cannabis farming. But I know in most forms of farming, especially what I do, which is a specialty crop, those are not fun because you might as well just throw yourselves out to a pack of wolves. You sell your soul. That's a dangerous place to put yourself. What I'm getting at with this is farming looks romantic. It looks easy. It is not. If you don't love what you do to the core of who you are, I would love to use these words, but I'm going to be polite. Your life will be miserable. And I've seen it with fellow people my age that are expected to generationally start with a pre-established farm. If you really want to get into this, you better know what the heck you're doing. Because if you screw this up, you leave a heck of a mess. Farming is hard to get into and it's hard to get out of. And as much as I am pro-liberty, and I believe people should be able to do whatever the heck they want on their property, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Because I've gotten those calls where people don't like hearing my pumps prime at 3 in the morning because I have to protect for frost. If I don't, I lose my crop. And I work with my neighbors. Thank God I'm in the middle of Pine Barrens. I don't really have neighbors. And I don't know if this gentleman's planning on doing this open air, because then you're going to have deer problems.
Hey, John, you have 30 seconds left, okay?
I'm done. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gregory Connolly, 231 Church Road in Medford. An odd place to be in. I work daily in city council, state legislatures across the country on my area of expertise, but to come here on something that I'm only medium level is new to me, so thank you. I just came here tonight to watch the theater, but I wanted to stand up and comment on one thing that was said earlier and the tone and tenor of some of the comments. It seems like there's people that think that in a city that 67% of residents voted to legalize marijuana, that there may be something immoral or a character flaw for people who want to be in this industry. And I'm not in the marijuana industry, but this is a legitimate, lawful industry. Maybe what has been proposed tonight will not work for the city, and apparently it does not. But in the future, when this council meets big decisions that face a lot of angry comments, like the fact that we are in a housing crisis and need to perhaps revisit past zoning restrictions, I hope that you will stand up and look at the data. You don't need to do 5 people in one room meeting with a constituent, that's not right, but one-on-one, looking at real data, there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much.
Was there another hand over here?
It was two right there.
This is Simon. Or you have this out?
We have one in the back.
So let's go, just to help this a little bit, we'll go with this gentleman, that gentleman, and then a gentleman over here. All right, great.
Hi, I'm Jack Casier, 20 Elm Drive, Medford. I moved here in 1965. So I've been here about 50 plus years, watched the town grow. I raised 3 children. 2 out of the 3 moved back to Medford. Because it's a great place to live. And I've got some questions about revenue. If the town is to receive the $1 million or so the first gentleman spoke of, how much revenue will he receive in order to pay that? Does anybody know? Council?
I do not.
2%, sir.
Pardon?
The municipality can collect up to 2% of revenue, gross revenues.
So you make 98% more than that?
Folks, this is not a time for back and forth, debate.
I understand.
Okay, I mean, you
And,
have a right to address council, and that's the idea of this.
Jackson Road is a county road, I believe. Is that right?
No, sir, no, sir.
Not in that section, but.
Municipal.
All right. The county fixed the bridge when it blew out in '05, I believe. And I wonder about traffic. If there is a farm such as proposed, then would there be much traffic? Has that been investigated? Has a study been made for traffic? Council?
Not at this point, we haven't found a reason to actually do that.
Would there be, if the issue arose?
We have our planner.
If the use was permitted, Mr. Kaiser, if it was permitted, and if there was a proposal for development of it, you would have to go to the planning board or the zoning board for approval. Like, there would be all that, would be that at that point, but we're not near there.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thanks. In the 1970s, I was a member of the planning board for Medford County.
Paul.
And I'm familiar with the process. To entertain such a, I'll describe, horrible thing to happen in a residential community would, in my opinion, be an abomination. Would there be fencing required around this farm, council?
There would be a whole site plan application, as you know, we get on the planning board, it would involve landscaping, lighting, water, electricity, fencing, buffering, all those things would have to be considered by the planning board. That's only if it was permitted and even to get there, and we're not there yet.
I understand we're not there yet. So fencing evidently would be required. I wonder what such a fence might look like. 10 or 15-foot high chain link, barbed wire on top to prevent thieves from entering and stealing marijuana? Would security be required?
Yes.
Police, roaming, perhaps guard dogs, and so on. Notwithstanding,
Jack, got about 30 seconds left.
notwithstanding pollution and so on. The number of wells that would be driven to provide all the water around the clock running would be fulfilled. I would like to ask if I'd like to raise another issue.
Zach, you're out of time. You've used up the 5 minutes, so everybody has a chance to talk, right?
I have another issue, and I come back for another time.
Not really. You're not really.
Unrelated.
Mr. Carnes, would you mind raising that microphone? Sorry for this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My name's David Carnes, 9 Atkinson Court, Medford. Good evening, council members. It's nice to see you up here. I spoke 2 weeks ago and things were a little crazy, so I just wanted to come up and say congratulations to you from deputy, Mike, and I've talked to you, the mayor. Bethany, how are you doing? Good to see you up here. I actually came here to talk to Mr. Watson, but he's not here. So I guess I'm gonna talk about something else. Tim Prime, you had asked for enhanced penalties against my mom. This was about 2 years ago. Is that still how you feel about this? That enhanced penalties was justifiable against an 82-year-old, longtime resident of Medford?
David, at the time, either you or your brother, I don't remember which one, asked for a description of any potential penalty that would be imposed as a result of an ordinance violation. I provided that information in a letter and indicated that the council has reserved its rights to request an enhanced penalty fine at the time. There was never any intent to ask for a jail sentence or anything like that, as you know from the time.
Right.
That's all I'm going to comment on this evening.
Have you asked for enhanced penalties on anybody else since then?
I didn't ask for anything. I spoke on behalf
You
of
were
the...
quoted in the newspaper.
I spoke on behalf of the council. I don't care if I was quoted in the newspaper.
Okay. Let's see, Donna. You went on the record after my mom was fined $10,000. It was right before Christmas. You went on a record and you said that you stood behind that. It's 2 years later, it's election year, and I think the residents would like to know, do you still think an 82-year-old resident of this township, being that you were on zoning for 10 years, because you made that clear during your statement 2 years ago, remember? You said you were on zoning for 10 years, so you're well aware of the zoning rules. And you stood behind this $10,000 fine. It's election year. I'd like to hear, do you still believe that that was the right thing to do?
No comment, David.
And you're out of comments too. It's the first time I'm up here and the seat is empty. And I gotta tell you, the energy here is a lot better. Guys, have a good night.
The gentleman in the hat.
Hey, I haven't heard from anyone, yearbook yet, so Ryan Schmitzel, yearbook, again, 7. So I wanted to fill in with the farmer guy. He didn't know much about cannabis growing. I know a thing or two about it. All right, so it requires a lot of energy. We're talking, he's gonna be probably indoor facilities, so we're talking, fans, lights, because with bud flowers as a habit. It's real complicated. These things require a lot of light, a lot of air, and a lot of water, and a lot of nutrient fertilizer. A lot, and it's all gonna go into a septic system, it sounds like, or it flushed down Berkshire Lake somehow, or it's gonna get moved down. I mean, I'm as liberal as they come in Medford, but from an environmental standpoint, it's just it's a disaster waiting to happen. Let alone the noise that it's gonna subject the local people to. You think breweries are loud? Try fans 24/7. Loud, big ones, sucking in fresh air, trying to push it all through a little big old carbon filter, not get rid of the odor. It's gonna stink too. The people who live near it, you may as well just put a pig farm in that. And that would be just bad. So, I mean, I hear like, it seems like, what more can you guys do to protect residential areas from encroachment of industry or not, peaceful businesses? Can we add more ordinances or, and, I don't know if this guy's gonna stop or if this is gonna be an ongoing issue because we do have it. Anything more you can do is just
I'm sure that our continuing desires to keep Medford as a charming place to live, work, shop, and play, so that's our ultimate goal.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Kazunas, I'm 11 High Bridge Boulevard. I sent members of the council an email, but I got a couple failures back, so I figured I would just read my email. And this does have to do with the property at 100 Jackson Road, or any other property that ever comes up wanting to cultivate cannabis. So I strongly oppose of this type of operation in a family-friendly environment such as Medford. I've lived in this town, in this community for over 17 years, and do not believe that a grow farm is good for a residential area such as ours. The proximity to schools, parks, and lakes that make Medford a wonderful place to raise a family does not need to be tainted or labeled with drugs or cannabis. I chose Medford to raise my children based on strong family values and sense of community. Please do not allow our wonderful town to be exploited by the negative aspect of a gateway drug, cannabis farm, or grow farm. Please protect our families, children, and community, and the good reputation that Medford already has. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Manuel Farinas, live at 5 Saxon Court, Sugar Forest, New Jersey. Didn't really want to say anything, came for the same reason most folks came. But just given some of the stats are out there, I figured I'd have to also go and say that I'm vehemently against it. However, that being said, I'm not sure that I'm against it in the township of Medford, but in the residential area. But I'm also an accountant and a farmer. Don't know how those two go together. I have farmed down in Edgertown, New Jersey, where I have seen what the warehousing industry has done. I've also seen what hydroponics, or however you pronounce it, what that's done. You have buildings, and if they fail, we're stuck with buildings, or clearing of the trees. So there are plenty of other properties. We have thousands and thousands of acres of farms to the east, and the south, and to the north. We have other property within Medford, if that was ever to be decided upon. I'm for Americans doing what they can without affecting the liberties of others. And for that reason, it is very high wetland. Anyone who lives in Sherwood Forest knows that we have 3 swimming pools when it rains. And so what would happen to that particular area? So we're a stone's throw away from said property. So yeah, obviously against it, and just figured that I should also say that I'm against it, so I'm glad that that is currently the situation, and happens to come up again in the future, then, as residents, it's our duty and our right to speak up. Thank you.
Monica Hollenbeck, 21 Yorkshire Drive in Sherwood Forest. And one of my concerns about the potential of opening up cannabis cultivation in Medford is something that hasn't been spoken about too much here, and that is the smell that the farm can produce. I'm not talking about like hot smell at a concert or something like that. This is described as a skunky odor that permeates for a large distance. There's a University of the British of Columbia. There was a study there that found that a facility that grows about 1,700 cannabis plants can emit the same odor concentration as a livestock operation with 30 pigs or about 1,600 chickens. The smell also applies to indoor because they have to vent, and throughout the state of New Jersey, there are numerous municipalities who have there are complaints against the plants for the odor. And there have been fines against the plants, and there's even in Township of Luton has a plant, and the neighboring town of Denville is trying to work with them, and has issued resolutions about the smell is traveling so far that it's affecting the neighbors there. So this is something that I think, even if they consider allowing it in the township, it's something that has to be considered. The smell, how it can be mitigated, if that's even possible. And that's primarily what I want to say. Oh wait, one additional thing. There was something years ago with the township considering the purchase of a cemetery. And now that was an expenditure from the township, but they were advertising, they had run the numbers, Jeff Beanstalk had run the numbers, 2.5 years worth of work about this, and that was gonna generate $80 million in revenue over 50 years, and the township vehemently against it. And that is something where a lot of revenue was promised, and I think just going off of the numbers of the people who are going to benefit the most from this and the promises of revenue, when it's going to hurt the property value of the people who live there and also the families, their quality of life. And my daughter, she's at Rutgers right now. She's an agriculture major. She has a lot of kids in her major who are there for learning about how to cultivate cannabis. And she just said the other day, her favorite spot is that spot, the common ground trails that we have there. And she grew up in those woods. My other daughter grew up in those woods, all their friends. And that character, that would be destroyed, and not to mention the harm to the wildlife. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Sir?
Good evening, Victor Hackett, 9 Woodlake Court, Medford. And actually, I'm the president of the Homeowners Association for Woodlake. My son is a graduate of Bishop Eustace, but I've got to give a hat off to St. Augustine. That was great. Retired military officer, traveled all over, lived all over. But when it came to where we wanted to live and settle down, it was Medford. And part of that is because of the character of Medford. And I think it's wonderful when you're in the summer and you see the kids riding their bicycles freely up and down the street. And I think the idea of this would severely challenge the character that we have inside of Medford. So I am in support of the ordinance as it stands now. And let's keep it that way, and let's keep Medford the way it is. Thank you.
Mary Ann Holloway, Medford. There's a lot of emotion about this, but there's also the practical side, and that's the zoning side. My knowledge is, and if I'm incorrect, Mr. Carney can correct me or Donna, spot zoning is illegal, from what I understand. And this seems to be one parcel that is asking for variances to change from residential to commercial. If you spot zone this property, you would have to blanket other properties to make a zone. Way back when, that property had significant wetlands, so I went to the Pioneers maps today. And I did an overlay of that property and the wetlands. And there are significant wetlands and buffers. So when you take that into consideration for one parcel, spot zone, having to blanket an area, taking a residential to a total commercial, it's not logical. So there were many things talked about online and everything, and all the pros about it, all the cons about it, but legality-wise, I don't know how to spot those parcels. There was also a talk about a woman that wanted to run it or whatever. That parcel on the deed is deeded to one single man. So I'm not sure who's applying, who's not applying, I'm sure you'll look into it, but none of it was on a business level logical. I don't really know how you do it. So it just seems like it's coming out of the blue. Also, way back when, Donald will know this, there was, I believe it was Pond and Spitz, that was running their office out of one of the homes. They were building part of Woodlake, they were building other things around town. When they stopped building, they stayed in that residential house for a couple of years, and you guys shut them down as a commercial business right next to this. So you forced one other business out there, didn't want to convert it to commercial, and stop them from operating. So it's not even logical to a structure that's needed as part of a growth facility in that location. It doesn't make any sense. So I think.
Anyone else from the public?
Hi there, Brian Sizik, 69 Taunton Road. I'm glad to see that the town can come together and talk about an important subject. And I'm glad to see that the town council cares about these people's opinions. And I'm glad to hear everybody's opinions and how they truly feel. That's all I have to say.
All right, anyone else? Oh, Justin.
Hi, Jacqueline Gage. I live at 1 Little John Drive in Sherwood Forest. I just figured I'd get up and also just imply that I am in opposition of this bill. I figured I would speak because I am not a longtime Medford resident. My husband and I just moved here about 2.5 years ago. My background is growing up right outside of the city of Philadelphia in a little town called Darby, Pennsylvania. If you're not familiar, it's very close to Camden. In likeness, it's like Camden. A lot of drugs, a lot of crime. When Winslow was brought up, my ears perked up because I was actually a public educator in Winslow Township. So when it comes to the comparison of housing in the market of Medford Township to Winslow, besides the financial aspect of it, you have to look at the socioeconomic status and the general people and how they how they show themselves as people of character and the types of families that are there. My heart is with those types of children. However, there is a lot of hurt and sadness and brokenness in those types of families, and I can only imagine that that would bring about several symptoms of that as well in our town if we were to bring that type of revenue into our township. We moved from Berlin, West Berlin in particular, and I have a 10-year-old now and an 8-year-old, and at the time they were 5 and 7, and we had some drug users in our neighborhood in particular, and I had the fear of who was driving past our home And I don't want that for our township here. Medford is a wonderful town. It's not something that we want to see bring down our town and the family aspect of things. It's such a family-oriented town and safe, and we can feel confident in who is around our children in this area. And I just thank you. So thank you.
All right, anyone else interested in making a public comment? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment is closed. Manager's report.
Good evening, council. Thank you very much. We have one new EMS volunteer, slight correction, it should say station 251, it's station 252. It's another one of our service members who is volunteering for us. We are the application. Thank you.
Great. You have lots of money, just fill out and clear out. So we always appreciate the volunteers, especially this week, Anna Moriarty and Chief Dobie, if you could extend that, Anna, I don't know if you're here at the moment. Chief, if you could extend that, our appreciation to her, the continuing appreciation of volunteers, that would be great. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about the application? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. We have no clerk's report this evening. We have one bill list to accept for January 25th, 2025. We have a motion to accept the bill list. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The bill list is accepted. We have one ordinance for first reading. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that council introduce on first reading ordinance 2025-2, calendar year 2025 model ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank. NJSA 40A 45.14.
Great. Do we have a second?
This is a standard ordinance, it's not anything special. People see exceed the cap, they think we're going over the cap. It's just a resolution, an ordinance is adopted every year for the council to create a package in the event of necessary emergency. It's a long story, Councilman Loney used to have his thoughts about this. We'll don't need to go into it, but it's a standard, it's just a standard.
Great. Thank you. Public hearing for this will be on February 4th, 2025. Does anyone have any comments on this ordinance? Roll call for approval.
Ms. Hill?
Aye.
Mrs. Simon?
Aye.
Mayor Osmond?
Aye.
Mayor Epstein?
Aye. The ordinance is approved. We have bill ordinance for second reading, and we have some consent resolutions, consent agenda resolutions. We're going to pull resolution 31, 2025 for a further discussion, but regarding the rest of the consent resolutions, we have resolution 2025, reporting Hardenberg Insurance Group as Medford Township's risk management consultant for calendar year 2025. Resolution 26, 2025, authorizing various professional appointments and contracts. Resolution 27, 2025, authorizing cancellation of 2025 property taxes on property owned by a qualifying totally disabled exempt veteran. Resolution 28, 2025, authorizing a fifth amendment to the agreement with NJR Clean Energy Ventures for a term extension. Resolution 29, 2025, temporarily extending the contract with Triad Associates for affordable housing and administrative agent services. Resolution 30, 2025, appointing Insurance Solution Incorporated as Medford Township's benefits broker of record for calendar year 2025. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please. good.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call for approval?
Ms. Mill?
Aye.
Ms. Snyder?
Aye.
Mayor Sisson?
Aye.
Mayor Redpath?
Aye. All right, we have no additional resolutions to consider. We now have our executive session. Resolution ES 0121-2025, matters relating to attorney-client privilege, affordable housing, and personnel public body appointment. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion is approved. We'll go into our session.
Mayor, I expect the executive session to last about a half hour. I do expect the council to take action after the executive session relating to the township acceptance of the affordable housing after provided to the township by the department.
Okay. Great. You all are welcome to stay. We'll reconvene the meeting in hopefully about half an hour.